Ahoy hoy fellow bookworms, my name is Caroline and I like to read books, so let's talk about them. Today's video is going to be all about books that I changed my mind on. These are the books that when I first read them, I really enjoyed them. I powered through the story because I was so swept up by it and I really liked the characters. I rated them somewhere between 3 and 5 stars on Goodreads and gave them a really positive review. And then at some point after finishing, I've sat down and reflected and thought about the book a little bit more and realized that I didn't actually enjoy it that much. The first book I'm going to mention is actually a comic book and it's The Wicked and the Divine. When I first picked up this series, I fucking loved it just because I thought the concept was so incredibly clever and unique. It's all about a group of 12 gods who are given the bodies of young people for 2 years so that they can experience living on Earth again. I do really love the art style in this comic just because I think it's really vivid and colorful and fun, but that's kind of all I like about this series now. There are so many questions in this series that I want answered and I've read the first 2 volumes and literally none of them get answered. If anything, it raises more questions, makes the world more confusing, and I'm just not really a fan of that. So whilst I initially really enjoyed the first 2 volumes, now I'm just kind of indifferent about them and don't really want to continue the series. The next book I'm going to mention might actually surprise a few people who've been watching my videos, and it's Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I've mentioned plenty of times that I just did not enjoy this book. I've never really gone into detail and explained the specifics of it. I feel like I've always been quite vague in talking about this book, but I definitely have reasons for hating it. It might surprise people that when I first read this book, I actually gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I think what really grabbed me about this book initially was the characters. I was really intrigued by them and kind of curious as to where their stories would go, but it was very quickly after finishing this book that I realized there'd been no world building at all. I still couldn't list the differences between the 3 kingdoms in this book because they just aren't there. It's like they're all the same kingdom, but they're fighting for some reason. So yeah, when I first read this book, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which still isn't a great rating, but considering now I would probably rate it 1 star, it's definitely a big shift. Next up is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, and honestly, I didn't enjoy this book that much to begin with. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it was kind of a cute love story, but overall, really boring. In the past few weeks, I've watched a couple of videos and read a few Tumblr posts talking about the racism in this book, and I can't believe I didn't notice this stuff when I first read it. For one thing, Park's entire character in this book is based on the fact that he is Korean. He's not even mentioned as Korean half the time, he's just described as the beautiful Asian boy, but that's all his character is the Korean love interest. Also, we have the 2 most generic black characters ever as Eleanor's best friends, and it's just why can't you write more detailed characters who are diverse? Why do they have to be so generic and just nothing? I'm gonna leave a link in the description box to a Tumblr post all about the racism in this, and it's the one that I read and was like, holy fuck, how did I not notice this stuff? So now I just don't think fondly of this book at all. I really have no interest in ever rereading it when previously I kind of did, so this has easily gone from a 3 out of 5 to probably a 1 as well. I think a lot of other people share my hatred of this next book, and it's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Just why with this book? Seriously? Why? Funnily enough, when I first read this, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I fucking loved it. I was like, oh my god, we're going back to Hogwarts and there's Harry and Ron and Hermione being the cute little gang and it's so nostalgic and magical and I love it and they're doing something new, which is cool. Now I'm just no. This play doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't fit with the rest of the Harry Potter world. They changed things about the world that were established and then acted like it was canon. No. This play is fan fiction and that's all it will ever be, and it's not even good fan fiction. I have read my fair share of Harry Potter fan fiction and I have read better stuff than this, so it's why publish it? It doesn't fit at all. It's not the 8th Harry Potter book. I can't believe I gave this 4 stars at one point and reviewed it nicely. Now when I think about this, I think about this burning hatred I have for it and how much I judge people who actually enjoyed it. That last bit was a little bit of a lie because I can definitely see why people enjoyed this, and I'll admit that I enjoyed it as a fan fiction, but as the 8th Harry Potter book, I did not enjoy it at all. To round up this video on books I changed my mind about, I thought it would be fun to actually see what was on the other end of the spectrum. So this is a book that when I first read, I kind of hated. I didn't really like it that much, and now I really love it, and that book is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I think a lot of other readers had the same difficulties as I did while reading this because the first 100 or so pages of this book are really a slog to get through. I found the writing to be just odd. It was overly descriptive. The narration style was kind of overbearing, there were metaphors that didn't make sense, and I just wasn't into the story. Like, I found I was very detached from what was happening, and then we got to the School of Assassins and things were exciting, but I still didn't really dig the writing style. So when I finished this book, I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but that was me being generous because I was really nervous people were gonna judge me for my opinion of this. Now when I think about this book, I think about it really fondly. Like, I can't wait for the sequel, which I think comes out later this year. I kind of want to reread this book because I loved the world. It was actually a really clever world. I loved the characters and the plot and the assassin school and a whole bunch of stuff that happened, and I actually think if I reread this book, I wouldn't find the writing style to be so frustrating. But it's just funny that when I first read this, I really didn't enjoy it and had no interest in pursuing the series, and now when I think about it, it's like with love and fondness in my heart. There we go, guys. Those are some of the books that I changed my mind about. If one of the books I talked about and said that I used to really love and now I hate is one of your favorites, then please don't be offended because this is just my personal opinion, and if you think differently, then that's perfectly okay. Also, be sure to let me know down in the comments what some books that you changed your mind on are. I upload videos Wednesdays, Saturdays, and sometimes Mondays as well, so be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and stay tuned on those days for more bookish goodness. Toodaloo!